And Renee?
Yes, I'm here. You just can't see me.
What about Renee?
I don't see it. Oh,
I don't see her. I see Cassie. I see Dan, Liz.
do
you have a quorum?
I heard a dial tone.
There's 5 of you. That's a quorum, right?
Yes. Does somebody want to make a motion to call the meeting to order?
Oh, I'll make a motion to call the meeting to order at 5:34.
All right, excellent. All in favor? All right.
Aye.
Our Pledge of Allegiance. Stand up here. See me, but I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome. You never know. You never know when you're going to need it.
All right. Public comment. What do we have, Mary?
We don't have any public comment tonight, Brian.
Okay. Presentations and correspondence.
We actually do have a presentation. We did not have one in our possession yesterday when the agenda went out, but I did receive a presentation in the wee hours of the morning this morning from Connor Carlson, the Eagle Scout who is proposing to do the Eagle Scout project for the Still River Greenway Gazebo. He actually sent an entire presentation with PowerPoint and with audio to go along with it. So Dan Secor from IT has that, and if it's okay with you, we can go ahead and have him share his screen and we can just listen to that presentation.
Absolutely.
Hi, this is Connor Carlson. I'd like to start out by saying I'm sorry I cannot attend tonight. I had a prior obligation with the National Honor Society, an event that's helping secure funding for the year. But I'm really excited tonight to update everyone on what I've been working on. I have a lot to update you on tonight, and I'd like to first start in on the structure stabilization and what I'm gonna have to do to rescue the structure. And then I'm gonna get into the different roofing options and the challenges I've faced there, and really how that's led into the fundraising I'm gonna have to do. And a bit later, I'm gonna talk about the design enhancements to the overall project that I found that I can do and would add to the overall beauty of the structure. And at the end, I'm gonna give an overall timeline of how this is gonna go down. Structure stabilization and rescue. So I spoke with Demi from the building department, and over the course of our conversation, he made it quite clear to me that due to new legislature, he has no ownership of the structure because it is too small. And he also has no records of how the structure was installed. So, with that out of the way, I had an on-site meeting with my lead carpenter and a stonemason, and we reviewed the needs of the building, not only to repair, but build a structure that will last. I inspected the weight transfer, which would be the pillar to the footing of the structure, and to my surprise, there was no footing. The pillars have been put directly into the earth with nothing to support them, which would explain why all of the beams are easily on a tilt. The bottom of the pillars are badly rotten and need to be replaced. So we all discussed foundation options, and in the end we found that the easiest rescue of a structure would be to build a foundation, then cut and place the existing beams into proper support. So the idea would be to cut them at midway height and build support up to them to make sure they do not rot away or collapse. On to the roof options. So I did contact Abitech. Through social networking, was able to reach the vice principal of Abitech, and she connected me through to the head of the roofing department. And over the course of several emails, I found out that Abatech is behind in their project schedule due to COVID, and they won't be able to support any project of mine until late fall of 2021. And the person I was speaking to was very kind, and in the end offered an additional option and reference that would be Kanor Tech in Waterbury, who I could reach out to. I've started response with them, but I've started conversations with them, but no response has come yet. And I'm currently assuming the worst case, that we would have to pay for the roof to be repaired, and I'm looking into people to reach out to. So on to fundraising. And so, assuming we need more funding for the project, I consulted my team for a brainstorm, and we came up with a donation and recognition system that has been employed on other Eagle Scout projects. So I have a tiered recognition system that I've come up with. First off, something I'd like to do down at the site is start selling t-shirts basically saying "Save Gazebo." Something small, something I could do with the people going by, and we can even share some information on what's going on. And mainly onto the main donation bit that would get me the majority of the funds, I'm looking at selling bricks. So previously in the past, for a 2014 Eagle Scout project, they sold bricks with people's names on them, and people were able to put messages that they wanted into the bottom. And this is a system in which I'm selling the bricks. So for a 4x8 engraved brick, we would sell that for $100, and then an 8x8 for $200. And another idea that came up with inspiration from the Milford Waterfront Walk, is that they had a plaque of their highest donors. You can see the names towards the bottom. I know it's a bit hard to read, but my idea was those who donated $1,000 or more would have their name engraved on this plaque. I'm not sure yet where I want to put the plaque itself, but and now we're on to design enhancements. So I've gone through several design changes since last we spoke, and a foundation is required for a lasting structure. I thought about how to incorporate the foundation into the overall structure, and I think I've come up with a pretty good plan. So I plan on creating a sitting wall on 7 of the 8 walls of the structure, and that would create a seating surface for visitors. It would also improve the aesthetic appeal of the overall structure. I plan on doing the brick flooring as the fundraising, and I still plan on painting the structure a nice bright white to fit in with our New England architecture. And on to the handicapped accessible path. So I have 2 ways I'm planning on either doing this. The main one I'm looking to do is paving a path that goes from the main trail of the Silver Greenway up to the gazebo itself. And you can see an illustration there of what I plan on doing. And another way that I could do that, in case we have a lot of extra brick donors, I could have the path made out of bricks with people's names leading the entire way up to the gazebo. I have been in contact with Wheels for Wheels. It's a foundation that supports handicapped accessible locations, and they may be willing to donate funds to help build this path. I'm still in the process of talking with them, and none of that is positive yet. So on to building awareness. So I've designed a project website. It's still mostly in the making, but I'm going to have a brief description of the overall project there, and I'm also going to have a link for people to go to donate. And at the Silver Greenway, I'm planning on doing signage. I'd like to have a sign at the building site, one up in the parking lot near the police station, as you can see. I'd like to have the sign actually look similar to that in the photo. I'd also like to have the rest of them at stations on the trail. The signs will be directing people to visit the website and donate some funds. I'd also like to put articles in the local publications. I'm looking to create some social media groups, And one idea was to reach out to our local radio station and visit them and do an interview. Another idea I actually had was going to businesses and proposing to put up posters there. The main inspiration for this came from the posters that were advertising what was going to be done at Four Corners that were put up in Peachwave. Personally, when I saw those, it actually made me quite excited for what was to come, and I'd like to try and reinvigorate that with my own sort of signage inside of local businesses. And on to the timeline. So, in this month, December, I'd like to get all my major decisions done. I'm gonna like to build and finalize the website, design the signage that's gonna go up. I'd also like to secure the fundraising conduit, and I'd like to get some quotes from several different companies that I'm going to reach out to. Next month, January, I'd like to have the signage printed and put out. I'd like to print some T-shirts for sale and fundraising, and I'd really like to have the fundraising underway. I'm going to begin my media push at that time, and I'm also going to be distributing those quotes to the vendors. In February, I'd like to have those quotes finalized and awarded. I'd like to launch some project ambassadors. Basically, I'd like to have scouts down at the site every weekend, basically talking to people there and saying this is what we're going to be doing. And I'd also really like to continue that media push. In March, I want to have the materials purchased, and I'd like to have the preposition of materials. That's also around the time that I'm going to have a brick cut off so that they can have the time to be produced and shipped. And then in April, I'd like to have a major building event. On the 12th through 16th, the school has spring break, and that's the time I'd like to actually do this main project. I'd like to have my troop camp out on site so we can be staying there for several days and make sure all this just gets done. So this is the end of my presentation. I'd like to leave it up for any questions, comments, or ideas. I'm sure Mary would be happy to collect the major questions and send them to me in an email. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for listening.
That was a great job. A really good job.
I'm excited to see it.
Me too. So I have a question, and it could have already been posed to this committee. Would we look to align a general contractor or somebody to oversee the entire project to make sure that it's done in compliance with different I guess rules, for lack of a better term?
Codes, building codes.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, John. That's yes. Couldn't find the word.
Yeah. I do have a couple questions myself. My apologies for not being at the last meeting. One is the painting, and I think it's a great idea to align painting it white like other historic districts or houses in the area. But one problem with painting is once you paint it, you've got to keep painting it like every 2 or 3 years. You've got to maintain it. It peels. To me, that's a maintenance problem, or not necessarily a problem, but it causes more work down the road versus just leaving it clear or putting a clear water sealer on it. I don't know if that was done initially. The other question that I have is about the stone wall. And I think it's a neat idea. It looks beautiful in the picture that he presented, along with sitting along that stone wall. Whether that's going to be comfortable in the long run versus benches, I don't know. I know I did look at the gazebo after he made his initial presentation, and I believe only 2 of the uprights or the posts are tilted. All the rest look fine. They may not have footings, but it seems like that's the way he's going. But just it may be a cheaper alternative to just take out each post, dig a footing, down to 42 inches, which is code, and then put a new post up, with a post hole bracket on the bottom of the cement, using the cardboard sonotubes to put the cement in. So that's one other option, and I can certainly have that discussion with him. But those are my only two things. I'm not sure about the stone wall, but then also more so, I think the painting is an issue for me.
So we don't have a ballpark of cost yet, do we?
I don't think he does yet.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. We do not have a ballpark. I had a brief conversation with Connor late this afternoon. In fairness, I just got this morning as well, and so some of the information was new for me today too. So in conversations with him this afternoon, his best estimate at this point in time with the information that he has is it would be about $25,000 with the current plan. And right now, in terms of what we have already, the town estimated about $10,000 for repair work. And so the fundraising would have to cover the additional $15,000 in order to kind of have this particular plan to come to fruition. I did speak with Connor, about how one would be able to scale back a project. So we talked a little bit about that, saying, okay, well, let's just say your fundraising goals, aren't met. What do we do then? And so he had some very logical and reasonable answers in that he would look to scale back and take out the stone seating. So we would not have that any longer. That would be one larger expense that would come out. And the landscaping would be the other expense. So the concentration that he would have, just like we would have as a town, would be that we want to make sure that the structure gets repaired. And then if the town has to, at a later point in time, with interdepartment services that we have, that we can use and utilize between Public Works and Parks, create a pathway to go up, then that's okay. It's not going to have a large additional cost associated with it. So I think that he has, some really good backup plans and backup plans to his backup plans. To Brian's point and to John's point, the problem is that because of the size of the structure, you actually don't need to have a building permit. And that makes things challenging because it's a little bit of a gray area. So the town certainly has, every right to want to make sure that it is being built to a certain standard that one would expect in a structure that does have a building permit, yet it's not required for this particular size structure. And so, I think that it would be reasonable for the town to have somebody on site, whether that is a carpenter who is also a general contractor, somebody who is a structural engineer, take a look and make sure that we're meeting the requirements for the load that's going to be there. But I do think that the resources are there. We just need to help Connor avail himself to the resources that exist. And I'm so sorry, on a very separate note, Renee is having a hard time getting into the meeting, so I'm going to try to work with her offline a little bit to try to help her get into. So thank you.
Okay.
Mary, just before you go.
Yes.
I don't know if Connor was able to get Chris Aiello's phone number for roofing, but I can give you his cell number if you can forward it, because I don't have Connor's contact information. But we talked about Aiello Roofing. He's done many people's houses in the area, and you're not going to get a better price. Yeah. and better quality work.
Yeah.
So that number for Chris Aiello, and it's AIELLO, is 203-241-9300.
Yeah, he does great work.
I can attest to it as well.
Thank you, John. I just made a note of that, and then I'm just going to take a quick pause and try to help Renee, and I will listen, but I will not be speaking for just a moment.
Okay.
So team, would it be, whose responsibility will it be to maintain this structure once it's set up?
The question is, who is responsible right now?
Yeah. Good question. I don't know.
I suppose it would fall under, I don't know if it falls under the building department because it's a structure of the town, or it falls under Parks and Rec because it's part of the Parks and Rec, entourage or whatever of Brookfield. It's one of our facilities that, is used for recreation.
Yeah. Well, because I'm thinking at some point they're going to want to have a line entry in their budget for either power washing or repainting or, general repairs or, what have you.
Yeah, that would be the case if they painted, but I'm really, I'm for the project obviously, but against painting. I think that's a bad idea. It's great that it creates more work for more Boy Scouts that are looking for something to do and to paint, but I think leaving it natural is preferred, but that's my own opinion.
Is there anything more on this subject? Any other questions that we can relay to Mary?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ed.
Find out who is responsible for it now and down the road.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, I think we're all for it. It's just these little nuances we want to find out.
I would suggest to Mary to contact Demi in the building department and say, there's this project, going on. It's an Eagle Scout project. We want to support it, but is there anything that we need to know from you or need to ask you to do from a building department standpoint? I would start there.
Yeah, good play. Okay.
Sorry, I'm going to hop back on here. Dan Secor, if you're still on the line,
Yes.
could you type in the meeting ID number for me in the chat, please, so I can pass that along to Renee? And then back to the topic at hand. I have actually had a conversation with Demi. It's going back several months ago already, and it's really not a building department project because it's not permitted, and so that's kind of where it kind of comes back full circle. So I'm sure he could be a resource for us, but he's not necessarily going to be the person who's going to be running point on the project. It would definitely not be coming from the building department. And in terms of the continued maintenance of it, now that it is prevalent again, now that the structure will be out in the open as it is now, and once it's refurbished, it will be continuing to be out in the open. It would definitely be something that would be under the Park and Rec department's purview to maintain, much like I believe the bandstand and some of the other outdoor structures. I think it would logically default back to Park and Rec, in my opinion.
Okay.
Well, as they keep piling responsibilities on, when you ask for more hours and a part-timer or a full-timer, they should be look at that and help us.
All right. So nothing else for presentations and correspondences? I think that Mary said that was the only thing. Minutes from the previous meeting.
And Brian, I apologize if I may.
Of course.
So I don't know, and again, I know the commission is kind of on the spot again tonight because we just have this presentation and we don't have a lot of time to digest. In fairness, Connor is going to need to have an answer from the town, the commission, as to whether or not we would support him proceeding in planning the project, not even necessarily actually doing the project, but if we're going to give our permission for him to continue to get estimates, start fundraising, and kind of really start getting the project off the ground or not. We all saw in his in his presentation, the timeline. So working backwards from April, he's hoping during the month of December to start doing some things on his list initially. So if we can't give that tonight, that's very reasonable. But I would just like to say that we would need to either let him know exactly what we need from him in order for us to give our permission for him to move forward, and get that from him and allow that, or we would need to tell him that we're not going to be able to let him go forward for whatever reasons that we have. So he is at a point that he's going to be looking for some definitive answers from us about what we need so that he can start working on his project going forward.
So why would we not let him continue planning? What would cause us to say, no, why don't we stop right here? I don't see any reason why he should stop planning, unless I'm missing something.
No, I don't think you're missing anything. It's just, if he's going to start fundraising and he's going to start asking people for money and start kind of doing this publicity campaign, then we would want to be fairly certain that we're comfortable with whatever is discovered and whatever issues, he finds, when he starts having more contractors on site, whether things come, in over budget, that we would be looking to work with him through the process to make sure that the project gets finished. So really, I feel like we're in a position that if we're saying, okay, Connor, we support the idea of you refurbishing the gazebo. We will work closely with you, on all the processes going forward to make sure that it meets the town standards for what we feel is safe and necessary. The commission will have some say in what we believe, the color scheme should be. The commission would want say in terms of what some of the building materials may be. Whatever it is, I think that we're kind of getting to the point where we'll need to start stating that to him, assuming that we want to go forward. And personally, I'm really impressed with Connor. Everything that I've seen from him so far has been, top notch. Both Dan Secor from IT and myself both kind of remarked today, like, wow, we've never actually seen a PowerPoint presentation with audio actually built into the slides, And I'm like, if he can do that, like, he's like a magician in my mind. So, but I realize that, audio and AV and IT issues are certainly not construction, but I do feel like he is a very capable young man. I do feel like he has outstanding resources that are surrounding him. And I just feel like we need to come to an agreement that we're comfortable, allowing him to go through this process. And in some regards, not that we want to see the project do very well. We want to see it be even better than we imagined, because what we were looking to do was just replace it and kind of have it be adequate. It would be pretty much the same as it had been, but it would be new and usable. And what I'm seeing Connor trying to do is he's trying to make it just really like a statement piece. He's not happy with the adequate. He's kind of pushing the envelope a little bit more and trying to kind of make it his with the stonework and the idea of having that the cement seating or the stone seating. And so I think that he has kind of taken the idea of what we're hoping to do, and he's just bringing it to a whole different level. And I think that, it's really kind of exciting for me to see him so excited about it, to be honest with you. So, so I would just ask, if there's something that I should be telling him that we need from him before we say, go ahead, let's talk about that tonight, or let's talk about that in the next week. And if that doesn't exist, then, let's say, okay, well, we're going to work together with you on this project and let's make it happen. And let's see, how fantastic it's going to be come April.
So Mary, devil's advocate here. I too, I appreciate his enthusiasm. This would be awesome for the town. It really, really would. So devil's advocate here, because that's essentially what I do for a living here. Project comes in over budget. Okay, there is excessive rotted wood. There's it well over budget, and fundraising is low. Okay, so how is that gap made up? Is it up to us to fill that gap, or what happens there? That would be really my biggest concern.
Yeah, well, so the really nice thing, I think, is that the fundraising happens in advance of the project. So the project isn't going to start until we have the funds secured. So you can work backwards still. So his plan is to do, a full cement pad. Well, okay. We don't have the funds to do that. Well, how do we scale that back? Okay, well, we have a crushed stone pad. The plan is currently to do, the stone seating. We don't get enough money. Okay, we're going to not have any seating, or perhaps we'll have a couple of wood bench seating, in there. So I think that a lot of the project is fully scalable depending on the level of fundraising that's achieved. And I think that, I was a little surprised to hear that about some of the rot that exists on, right now. I don't think that that's going to push the project so crazy out of budget that we don't have enough money already to fix it. I'm not really concerned that we're not going to be able to do the basic necessities of the project in terms of getting the structure back up and safe for people to be there anymore. What would be cut back would be the enhancements, in my opinion.
One question on the painting, is that something we want to have him go ahead and do or not do? Because if he's going to fundraise for paint's not cheap. He may be able to save a couple $100 for paint. I wonder how everybody else feels about that. If we want to have him painted, that's fine with me. That's just my own personal preference, is not to do it. So I don't know if everybody else wants to chime in on it, because we can tell him to go ahead and paint it or not paint it.
But what would be the other options, John, for protecting the wood?
It's just a clear coat, like a polyurethane. And I don't know if they even did that on the original structure.
Well, you were looking for something functional first, right? And then aesthetically pleasing maybe second.
I think it's all cedar, which doesn't really rot. I did see a couple of the fascia boards were rotten. They're missing, so there's definitely some rot besides, some of the posts, but that all can be taken care of and figure out how much it's going to cost.
So what's our consensus?
I have one thing. I'm all for it. I just, from this time on, I would ask Connor to be more timely with his communication with Mary. So I'm seeing a pattern develop of, last minute scheduling of meetings with him. I mean, I just want to look ahead and communicate a bit better.
That's fair.
That's true. And I think we also need to kind of come up with a point person really from Parks and Rec. And I was thinking as we were talking, Peter Brady or, maybe Jack Brown, who's going to be retiring soon. Maybe he's got time to kind of oversee a project. A friend in town who works for IBM is going to be retiring. But I think we need to have a point person for Connor to represent Parks and Rec. So this just isn't something that gets added on that Mary's got to deal with. I think, whether it's somebody with a construction background or communication or whatever expertise, I think as a commission, we need to figure out who's going to be a liaison between Connor and.
Are any of his troop leaders in that capacity? Because I know when my boys went for their Eagle, we had, Joe Grimes was in it, John Morris was in it. So they were all construction people. They were great contacts. Is there someone like that in Troop 135?
I know one of the leaders, I believe, is in construction, is a carpenter. And has his own business. So I know he was talking to him beforehand. I don't know whether or not he's going to be involved in the project.
You usually have a mentor within the troop.
I believe he does.
Yeah.
And it certainly could be that could be a liaison to, to the Parks and Rec Department, somebody, who's already working with Connor and,
An adult.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's the Eagle coordinator over there for that troop? Who's the Eagle trainer? And
No, my guys were Troop 8.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, which is now gone.
Yeah.
So I believe that Connor's dad is the troop leader in the troop that he belongs to. I also know from speaking with Connor that his dad is in construction. I think there's a couple of other troop leaders who are also in construction that he has as resources too. So, and I know we've mentioned Ray Flum by name previously as somebody that the town has used, who actually built the bandstand for the town many years ago, and who is often called upon as a consult for these Eagle Scout projects. So I do know that there are some talented people already that are in the loop already.
Who is that? Who built the bandstand?
Ray Flom.
That was Ray Flum. Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Sue.
Who was also very involved with Brookstock a couple of years ago when they started raising money to fix up the gazebo. Ray at that time said he'd be very interested in working on it too. He'd be a great connection. Good idea.
So if not to put words in the commission's mouth, but what I'm hearing from people are that the concept, of course, the commission is very favorable in the concept because we certainly want the work to get done. The concerns of the commission would be that for cost overruns, for plans to make sure that the needed work gets done regardless of any potential cost overruns, and the issue of having a qualified craftsman or woman who is able to supervise the project and make sure that it would be to the standard that the town would expect. So those are really the points that I'm hearing.
And more communication in a timely manner.
Okay. Okay, so if we're able to satisfy all of those things, if I'm able to get with Connor, make sure that we have somebody who's a general contractor or somebody who is considered a kind of an expert craftsperson, that could be a liaison working closely with Connor, who could also report back to us, making sure that we're kind of hearing the lingo directly from that person in addition to hearing it from Connor, and that we're going to be given the working budgets and the fundraising goals in advance so that we can make sure that we're in agreement with how money is being spent, then we would be pretty comfortable with moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I agree.
Okay. Okay, I think that those are very, very doable things. So I will reach out to Connor tomorrow. I will let him know of kind of the needs that the commission has in order to have a high level of comfort that we're making sure the right thing is happening for the community. And certainly Connor also wants the right thing to happen, so we're all here on the same side. So I'll make sure that we're able to get those items and that we can agree upon a plan of how those will be communicated back to myself and back to the commission in a timely manner. And then I'll reach back out to everybody by email and make you aware, and maybe we can just kind of do a general everybody's good and kind of move forward. Is that the most reasonable way to proceed tonight? Yeah?
Yeah.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
All right, awesome, thank you. And Renee is having some technical difficulties still, so she will likely not be able to join us in person. Hopefully she'll still stay and kind of watch the meeting, but I'm sorry that my technical expertise is not sufficient to assist her with what's going on tonight.
Mary, is she able to dial in?
No, she's having some problems with the meeting ID number. It's not being accepted.
Oh,
The first time I put it in, it didn't work for me either, but I did it again and I just assumed I put in the wrong number, but that's, you know.
Yeah, mine worked the
probably
first
more than
time,
that.
so.
yeah. So Mary, from the agenda that was sent out, I just clicked on the link next to Zoom, and that worked without issue.
Yeah, that's how I got in. I got kicked off, but they let me right back in.
Okay, thank you. I actually punched in the number, I think, on my computer. So, you know, sometimes just weird things happen with technology. So I think Renee's having one of those weird technology experiences right now. But Renee, if you're listening, if you want to give it a try again right from the agenda, maybe it'll work.
I just sent her the ID number again through Messenger,
Thank
so
you.
we'll see.
The
Yeah,
whole link there, John? Okay. So minutes of previous meeting. I wasn't in attendance.
Me neither. I was not there. Tom was.
So Mary, what meeting minutes do we have to approve? Is it just the October 28th?
Thank you. It's only the October 28th meeting.
Okay. Did anyone have any changes for those minutes? Or questions?
Yeah, and it looks like just looking through the copy that I have in front of me, in attendance tonight, the only people who were at the last meeting are Ed and Tom. Everybody else was absent.
So we can't vote.
No quorum.
Can't vote.
All right.
So
Let's
we
table
can
that for next meeting. We'll have two to review. Okay. Mary, director's report.
I'm going to be really brief. So director's report, just a couple of updates on other projects that have been happening with, actually with another Eagle Scout. Just to let everybody know that Caleb Lipinski, who is the Eagle Scout working on those checker chess picnic tables that we had worked with, he actually delivered the picnic tables back just a couple of weeks ago. One's tucked away behind the senior center, one's currently at King's Kingdom, and one is in storage. And just want to go ahead and to thank him for all of his efforts on the tables and for his donation, and to congratulate him on the completion of that project. Recently, a local Girl Scout troop from Brookfield also reached out about donating some bat houses. So they're planning to build somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 14 bat houses. There's already some on town property, so we'll work with them for establishing locations and helping with installation to make sure that they are installed properly. And that's really all I wanted to talk about under director's report.
Where would the bat houses be installed?
So that's a really good question, Don. Right now, we don't have any preconceived ideas of where they may go. Some ideas that may make some sense might be a couple back behind the town hall bandstand, back on the wood line back there, a couple of Williams Park, maybe Burr Farm. So we'd be working with the Conservation Commission. I believe that there's already a few at Williams Park and at the Gursky Nature Center. So we would try to find some different locations to place them. Also, we'd be working with them on an education piece. The girls are quite passionate about bats and what we need to do to help protect them, as they're an important part of our ecosystem. So we'll be trying to help them get some of that information out to the public too.
I'm sorry, Mary. I got to interrupt. What were we just talking about at the park, Williams Park and everything? It's what we talking about. Sorry.
Oh yeah, thank you. So the Girl Scouts want to donate some bat houses And so we were talking about
Oh,
where
okay,
that
okay,
houses
that's fine.
currently
Thank you.
exist and where we might be able to add a couple more.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Like, who's been clearing the trail more the clearer than they usually are? Updated map and everything. Who's been doing that?
Which trail? Which trail,
Both of
Tom?
them. I like farm, park. The back end where it's the wooded part I'm talking about. I don't remember them being this clear. Actually, it looks like someone's been in there clearing them. I don't know if it's Park and Rec, if it's a Boy Scout troop, or
Where was it, Tom?
they. Williams Park.
Yeah.
Not the metal part, the back end where the
Well, that's the Browns guys, but they've been working on that since summertime.
Okay, yeah,
So,
I mean,
great job.
I mean, I've been back there lately, but I mean, I remember in the past, like with Bird Farm, it wasn't cleared. Not the metal part, where the wooded area actually.
No, they've done a great job both there and at Happy
Right.
too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The trails look great actually. Yeah.
Conservation
know
has
there's
had
a new-
several people volunteer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was the Park and Rec or Troop Scout or troops.
Could be
whatever.
both, but I know they've had some.
Okay.
That's good to
Yeah, it
know.
looks like some of them have new trail markings. Okay. Go ahead, Mary. I'm sorry.
No, I'm all good. I'm good with moving on if the commission is.
Why don't we hit old business?
All right. So under old business, the first item would be the department COVID-19 response and facility reopening. So just a couple of quick details to share. Youth sports are now on hiatus per the governor's order through at least January 19th. And we have had no changes in facilities at this time. So no changes since June right now.
Okay.
Fall
May I
programs?
continue with fall programs? Okay, so fall programs, just to give a quick update on those, our programs, had to go on hiatus when the schools stopped sports, and our programs stopped meeting as well because we had many sport programs, so anything kind of sport or team sport related stopped. They resumed back the first week of November, and then we were shut down for the season after November 22nd. So the really good news is that we were able to complete almost every one of our fall programs that we started back in September, October. Just a couple of programs, I think we had one class that we couldn't make up, but most of them we were able to complete. The bad news was we had planned and actually already registered for a lot of our extension classes. So we had done mini sessions or add-on weeks for some of our more popular programs that were supposed to go from the end of November through really through like the third week in December. And we had to cancel all those, which is reasonable under the current circumstances, but we did have to do that. In other news for fall programs, we're working with the Arts Commission on the Home for the Holidays Light Up the Town event. I'm not sure if you've seen it on Facebook or on the website, but right now anybody who's decorated their home with outdoor lights or inflatables and has a nice festive house, we're encouraging them to either reach out to Park and Rec or to the Arts Commission to register their home. And if anybody is interested in receiving a map, we're also encouraging them to reach out to either one of our agencies or departments to get on the list to get the map. And then we have a virtual jukebox bingo coming up at the end of the month on Tuesday, December 29th.
Mary,
People can call us to register. What was that, Tom?
Man, just can I ask you something about the holiday light map?
Yeah.
How come we don't just post it on like our Facebook page, the Park and Rec Facebook page or something like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great question, Tom. This is our first time ever doing the event, and different towns have kind of taken different approaches to it. One is that we want to know who's getting access to the information and sharing it in that way. And the other way is that it's just up and it's free and public information. So, I did speak with the Arts Commission because they had started working on one event, and we had started working on our event, and we kind of put our events together. And for this particular event for this year, the Arts Commission was in agreement that we should keep it by request. And then, perhaps next year we can think about it differently. But it's really easy. It's a phone call or an email to get on the list, and then we'll send it out on Monday.
I mean, more likely, I'm thinking of like Newtown. Newtown has a Facebook page. They have the maps on the Facebook page. A lot more on a Facebook page that actually have, Saturday night, you're like, what should we do? Oh, I go out and look at the lights. And if anybody responded to me on Saturday, I don't know. Yeah.
Tom, there's something wrong with your audio.
Is it?
It just keeps breaking up and your video kind of stopping and going. I don't know if you got a bad wireless connection or a Wi-Fi connection or something. But I mean, we get bits and pieces of your questions, but not everything.
You're telling me to shut up, John, right?
No, I'm just surprised Mary can get the whole question down because I can't.
All right. Hold on. I'll go check on my settings here. Hold on.
It seems better now.
Maybe when I'm talking to someone directly. I don't know. No, I was just. Can everybody else hear me?
Now
you're good.
Now I can.
Oh, that's weird. No, I was just asking Mary about the holiday light tour map and why isn't it accessible on on the Facebook page. It's like I'm thinking of Newtown that, you just access it right on their Facebook page. And here you have to email someone to send it to you, actually.
Yeah, okay. and Tom, it's a fair question. And I actually recently found out about the Newtown group. And so, of course, I'm stalking it because it's always good to learn from other people. The one big difference that I see is that the Newtown group are a group of residents who put it together, and we're a town agency, so that.
Okay.
Yeah, but point well taken, and food for thought for the future for 2021 when the event will be bigger and better than ever.
Okay. All right. No problem.
We're working. Actually, we're just about ready to release a new scavenger hunt. We're going to be doing around the town hall property. The reindeer were playing reindeer games, and they lost their bells, and people need to come and help find the bells and kind of solve the clue. So we're looking forward to getting that out in the next couple of days as well. And then we also have some pretty well received grab and go craft kits. We have a special do-it-yourself gift craft kit for kids, figuring that, with school's not in session, a lot of times, parents and grandparents kind of rely on those gifts that are made at school, and we're going to be providing an opportunity for kids to get all the materials that they need in order to do the same kinds of activities at home. And that's really it for fall programs.
Oh, you guys did the trivia thing a couple of weeks ago. We did that worked out pretty well. Yeah.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I dialed in after the first round, but I thought it was a lot of fun, and we're really looking forward to the jukebox bingo at the end of the month. It's the same person. Right. Okay. Same person, but a different format, and hopefully we'll get a lot of interest. Okay. But thank you for saying so, because that trivia was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a great idea.
The last item under old business is a donation policy. If it's okay with the commission, I'd like to table that for discussion in January, just because I don't feel like I have enough information to discuss that tonight.
Fine.
Okay, that's fine.
And then if I may move on to the new business for the winter 2021 programs. before kind of diving into what we have planned, I just want to really give a big shout out to the Brookfield Girl Scouts for all of their efforts to get the tree lighting, able to be done with all the COVID restrictions. They worked so hard in terms of having it be a drive-in event, only to have the nor'easter come in last weekend and really just put a huge damper on the event and us not being able to run it because the forecast was just so either we're going to have rain or we're going to have 6 feet of snow. We're not really sure what's going to happen. So it had to be canceled, but I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge all the effort that the Girl Scouts did put in, because a tremendous amount of effort over weeks and weeks and weeks to make that happen. It also gave me the chance to learn some new skills. I had learned how to use an FM transmitter, which we now have to use for future events, which is always a good thing. So we could do them we can have our own bingo afternoons or evenings outside. We could potentially use it for a drive-in movie night. We have the technology now, so it's kind of a neat thing for us to have. And we have been getting some questions about when the tree is going to be lit, because usually it gets lit during the tree light. And I just want to let everybody know that we're hoping it's going to be lit by early next week at the latest, that we're actually expecting a very special guest who's traveling to Brookfield from very, very far away, perhaps as far away as the North Pole. And so we just need to kind of, be very patient. But some things are in the works with more to come soon. So I'll leave that there. And then as far as our other winter 2021 programs, we're under a lot of restrictions currently, and so we're trying to get more and more and more creative in terms of what we can offer. We're going to continue to offer special events for folks in person and virtually when we can throughout the winter months. We're going to be concentrating our efforts on outdoor programming. A lot of our grab-and-go kits have been really popular. And then we'll also do some virtual classes. We did find that our art classes that were held virtually this past fall did actually do pretty well. And so we'll definitely continue those and hopefully add in a few more. We know right now that basketball leagues can't happen until at least January 19th. I think that's really optimistic. So we're not doing any registration or any advertising for basketball leagues that we typically start in mid-December and or early January, depending on the age groups. But it's the right thing to do to wait, because we just don't have enough information to make good decisions and to collect people's money. So we're just waiting. Speaking of waiting and collecting money, usually right now we're very busy with our Friday night ski trips to Mohawk and doing registration, and the planning for those are typically well underway. We did make the decision weeks ago that everything was just too uncertain, and that we didn't want to go ahead and collect people's money when we weren't sure if we were going to be actually able to have a program or what that program was going to look like. So for right now, that's just on hold. If we can do anything, it's going to be later in the season. It may or may not involve bus transportation. It might just be facilitating groups of people that would like to go. So we'll kind of keep an open mind and kind of wait and see what happens. But those are definitely two of our larger winter programs that we offer, and right now we're just in a waiting pattern on those. But it's the right thing to do for both, and so we'll just be patient and wait for those two. Dan is working with Mohawk to schedule a Brookfield Day. So even if we can't get ski trips in, we're definitely going to have a Brookfield Day there where residents can go and have some fun as families or as individuals at the mountain on their own. And one idea I wanted to kind of run by the commission real quick was that Chris and I were talking about purchasing a portable ice rink. And we figure, portable ice rinks are fantastic when they work, because if you get consistent cold weather and the ice stays frozen, they really provide a great opportunity for people to ice skate safely in a place where we don't have a lot of bodies of water that allow us to ice skate. And with a lot of the hockey rinks and things closed, we think that it might be pretty well received. The challenge is always that you can't control what the weather is going to bring, and you could go through all of this time and money and effort to put one up, and you might only get a few days of ice skating over the course of the whole season. And so that's the great unpredictable ness of the weather. But just wanted to kind of plant that seed and see if the commission had any thoughts about us proceeding in that direction. We'd have to fund the money from our current operating budget. So, the decision to put up the rink now could have, implications for the spring. I think we have enough flexibility in order to be able to pay for it and not take away from other things that might be coming up, unless we have one of those totally unforeseen, breakdowns with a pump breaking or something like that. I feel like our budget's in pretty good shape, but it certainly is, a little risky to go in that direction. I wanted to see what people thought.
What's the cost factor, did you say, and what locations are you looking at?
Yeah, great questions, Ed. So the cost for purchasing the portable ice rink, which is reusable from year to year and expandable. So in the event that it's actually such a huge hit that we want to make it larger, we would just add on pieces. So the cost would be a little bit under $5,000 to purchase the items needed. It comes as a kit. We would see if it's something that we can put together. A lot of these kits are something that homeowners and people can do on their own without professional installation. So that would be our goal first. And then the location we've been scouting out, actually. So the location that we're looking at is in Williams Park, adjacent to the tennis courts. And it probably sounds like a really odd place to put it, but let me tell you how we got there. So originally, Chris and I were talking, and we said, oh, we should put it at Cadogan Park. That's a perfect place for it. We're going to put it right on top of the basketball courts because we have the lights there. It's already flat, and that's a great place. And so I figured, okay, well, before we have that as our starting place, let me call the people that installed the basketball courts and ask them, pros and cons of us doing that. They really suggested strongly that we don't put an ice rink on top of the basketball courts because their concern was twofold, actually. The first being that people are likely going to be walking on the court surface with their skate blades, and that would cause damage to the court surface. The second being that there's actually a larger grade across the courts than we actually realize from the naked eye. So from side to side, there's about 5 inches. So that's, significant enough in difference, but they had me at the damage to the courts. The thought would be perhaps we can make it just match up so that the possibility wouldn't exist for that to happen. But then I'm like, yeah, no, it's 2020. It would happen no matter what we did. So let's not even go there. So then we were looking at other flat areas where we don't want to do it on a sports field. We don't want to take the chance of something happening and the sports fields being damaged. And Williams Park is lovely for a few reasons. The first is that it's a little bit lower in elevation. It's kind of like a little bit of a valley when you walk down. And so we thought, well, that's not bad. It's going to be a little cooler down there than it would be in other areas. It's actually also a little bit more well shaded down there than it is in other places. And that's not a bad thing for ice either. We do have the ability to plow the service road that goes down so we can make sure that it stays safe for access. We do have water down there in order to kind of treat the ice as needed because we have an irrigation system for the tennis courts there. So it had a lot of positives. We have parking. And we kind of like, in some ways, it's a little bit out of the way because it's not so large that it can accommodate throngs of people. And so, having people kind of know about it from us telling them about it and not necessarily from them passing by on their way through may not be a bad thing. Mm-hmm. That was a really long answer.
Mary, how big is it and how many people could the rink accommodate with social distancing?
Yeah, so what we're proposing is getting something that's about 50 by 75. In comparison, I actually reached out to the folks at Rockefeller Center because I said, okay, well, everybody knows that rink. So let's see how big their rink
right
is.
to the top.
I did. I'm not going to mess around. We're just going to go right to the big rink. So Rockefeller Center rink is approximately 60 by 120. So it's definitely smaller than the Rockefeller Center rink, but it's it's about almost as wide, just not quite as long. I did do some research about how many people we could actually have on it and capacity, and I want to say that it was about 30 would be within guidelines of what I had found back when it was 50% capacity. So figure, it would probably be no more than 30, but it might be more like, 15 to 20. So we would have to post it, post what the capacity is. And again, I would want to double check those numbers. This is my memory, not me looking at a piece of paper right now. So we would post the capacity. And then if we find that the capacity is approaching or exceeding, we could always go to a reservation system if we had to. Like the beach, we're set up to do that now. And so that would be our backup plan.
Mary, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
If I recall correctly, Rob had put one in Reading. If it wasn't last year, maybe the year before. Did you have a chance to talk to him about it?
Sue, I didn't. I was hoping that Rob was going to be at tonight's meeting because I figured he might have some firsthand knowledge about how things have gone. I do know from talking with Rob or with other park and rec directors, over the years that it's just so weather dependent. And so I don't think Reading's rink did especially well last year. They may not have gotten more than a few days of use out of it. But on a different winter, they may have. It was really mild last winter, like unseasonably mild for a lot of the time. So it's hard to predict what we're going to have.
Mary, say if would it just be for open skate, or say if I wanted to go down there with my friends and have a hockey game, would that be allowed?
Now, Tom, there's no hockey allowed in the state of Connecticut currently. Is this a trick question?
No, but what I'm saying. Here we come. Here comes a couple of guys. They're bringing the net. They're going to stop playing hockey.
No, I totally understand what you're saying. My personal opinion is it would be for open skating. It wouldn't necessarily be for hockey games.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it would be desirable, honestly, for hockey games. But in doing some research, this size rink, if it was in somebody's backyard, would be suitable for somebody to play a 3-on-3 children's hockey game on.
Yeah, like a half court,
like a pickup game.
A half court game.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If they're coming around, I'm not thinking of full. It's much smaller than a typical hockey rink, actually, the size you're saying.
Yes, it's.
The one question about the Williams Park location, so you could fit, there doesn't seem like there might be a lot of room if you wanted to actually, it's very successful, you said it could expand the rink. There's not a lot of room down there to actually get that much larger in that area. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're right. So we would think about where else to put it. This is really it's a nice trial location.
Right. Okay.
We could also think about regrading some additional land out there. We can go a little bit wider if we do a little bit more regrading, but we were just looking for a place that we could fit. The size rink that we're looking at is not an uncommon size rink. A lot of people will choose to put in something that's about 50 by 80, and we'd be pulling back a little bit to give room for the supports.
Okay, all right.
Mary, so is the intent that we would have to staff or just keep an eye on this area?
So we definitely wouldn't staff it. We would be checking it on a daily basis. The Parks Department would be checking it to see the condition of the ice and to see if there's anything that needs to be done in terms of the condition of the ice. But we wouldn't necessarily have anybody stationed there. We'd be doing some posting. We would need to find out what the town would need to have us post for people to use the rink. It would probably be something like, a skating at your own risk, and the, limit of people who are allowed on the rink at one time. The really nice thing is, in my mind, it's if we're ever going to try it, this is the year to try it, because even if it's not a huge success, I mean, we hope it's going to be a huge success, but there are so few opportunities right now for people to get out and to do activities with their families. We're saying if there's ever a time, it's now, and we're hoping that it's going to, the weather will cooperate and that, people will get a lot of use out of it. But should that not happen, I probably could still put my head on the pillow and go to sleep at night, because we're trying with the best of intentions to try to give opportunities, just because we're already seeing it. People are saying, well, what kind of activities can I do? What's going on? I can go for a hike. I can go for a walk. And what else? And we have a good few months ahead of us with freezing temperatures on a fairly regular basis. And I would love for this to be a potential what else.
So, go ahead, Ed.
Okay, Mary, what about across from the post office where the library wanted to move our soccer field years ago? It's where the post office was parking when they had construction. Is that large enough? Then there's parking, at Town Hall. And the second part of that question is, if you pick a spot this year and set it up, and then you want to change it next year, it's movable. Correct?
You mean where the outdoor farmers market is?
Yeah.
Ed, I think I'm going to do both parts. So it is fully movable for future use. The farmers market area, I think, has a little bit more of a grade to it than you think. And so part of the reason why Williams is nice for us is because we can get in and we can do a little bit of grading work to try to make it as flat as possible, because it's not land that's otherwise being used that can't be disturbed. So we can do a little grading, do a little topsoil, and then come spring we can plant some grass seed, and it's gonna be beautiful. And a lawn, as it currently is, will grow back in the spring for us there. The farmers market, I think that we can't do the same kind of grading there right now. I think the pitch is just a little bit too great, unless we find like a particularly flat part that I'm not envisioning, which could exist in fairness. But I'm not sure exactly where it would be.
Okay, yeah, I haven't been over there, so I don't know, but that's not, on top of an existing field or something. Okay, thank you.
So, Mary, it'd be $5,000 to purchase the rink. Am I correct? That's what you said?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Now, two questions. West Coast Sports over there on Federal Road. I mean, I don't know if we could tie them in somehow, because it would be beneficial if we actually had a rink. People have to go out and buy ice skates then, right? I don't know if that's a tie-in anyway or something. You know what I'm saying?
That would be more of a hockey tie-in, I think.
Well, it's ice skates. They sell ice skates. They sell starter ice skates in there. I mean, I got my daughter ice skates in there, Yeah.
Well, our idea is more recreational skating, right, Mary? Not game.
Yeah, but I mean, it's ice skates. They sell ice skates. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Tom, your point is well taken that if we could figure out a business, a local business especially, that we can work with in order to give residents opportunities to perhaps rent or borrow skates to use so that they don't have to purchase skates, I think is kind of the intention. We could certainly, reach out to some folks. I don't know what the ice arena is doing in Danbury either with all of their skates. I can't speak to that, but that might be interesting too. Like maybe we can run a little operation out of here, I mean, who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Mary. Can you just add in a little bit about Walden Pond? I mean, I know a lot of people ice skate there off of Farview. Is that something that it's not big enough, or it's not safe because it's deeper, or is that underused or overused?
Thank you, Jenna. I'd be happy to speak to that. So Whalen Pond is, to the best of my knowledge, really the only other town-owned place where folks can go ice skating that's fairly safe. So with Whalen Pond, what we've seen is that and I'm not going to say it in the right scientific terms, so please forgive me, but it's not freezing properly any longer. The ratio of what's on the bottom of the pond, which traps the heat, to the water that exists above it, it's not really conducive to freezing. And so what we've been seeing, probably amplified because of the more mild weather that we've been having the past couple of winters, is that it's not consistently freezing there either. And so at some point in time, I think it would be another conversation for us to have about, what we can or can't do with inland wetlands regulations in order to see if there's any correction that can be made to that particular ice skating area. But for now, we acknowledge that it's not really had great skating for a while, and we believe that that's the reason. The other nice thing, with natural, ponds, a lot of times people will go out and they'll shovel halfway, and then you're left with the rifts and the bumps and the pieces of ice and stuff sticking up to trip people, and there's no real way of correcting that. There's no water source, there's no hose, there's no way of kind of going and trying to smooth out the ice again, so that way it can refreeze. So there definitely are some advantages to having more of a man-made place that we can try. Now, we may not be successful either. We may not have the weather that we need to do that, but we would have the ability to go in and to try to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Just one question about Whalen Pond, Mayor. Do we clear the ice, or it's just solely I know the guy up the block used to do it all the time, clear the ice, but we never had Park and Rec clear that ice, right?
Yeah, so at least for the last few years that I can speak to, Park and Rec has not gone out and cleared the ice off. I think it has typically been a neighborhood effort.
Right.
Which is great. I mean, it's great that folks go out and do that.
Yeah. I know the guy right up the block used to do, I don't know if he still does it. He used to drive his tractor down, go and do it and stuff. So I don't know. And then some other people come when they want to play like hockey or something and clear it. I know that. Okay.
Yeah, and my understanding is it's not particularly deep. There aren't a lot of deep areas there, so it's not surprising that he might have been able to drive a tractor or something on there if the ice is thick enough.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So, Mary, are you looking for a motion to go ahead and investigate more and then spend the money on this rink so we can take advantage of people using it in a downtime with the pandemic? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, if folks are in favor of us going this direction, since it wasn't a budget line expense that we had proposed in our original budget. So I think I might have a little bit more comfort if the commission agrees that we should go ahead with this expenditure in this particular case.
Okay.
Someone make a motion?
I make a motion.
Okay, I second it.
I'll second it.
Yeah, you got that, Liz?
Oh, she's muted.
She's muted.
We still love you, Liz.
You there, Liz?
I've got it. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm in favor. I think it'd be great for the town.
Yeah, I think it's great.
All in favor? Go. Let's go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. We're pretty excited about it too. So I'm really excited that we'll be able to request a purchase order and get that ball rolling. Thank you.
Now we'll have somewhere to put the big tree, right?
Mary, if you could send around pictures of what you're proposing, that'd be great. You know, I'm still in favor. I'm just curious to see what it looks like. And
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to do that. And then the last item I think on the agenda were the meeting dates for 2021.
Mhm.
So Liz was working on a full list, which I did not approve for her to send out. But what I would love to do is just talk real quick, perhaps about January to start, and then kind of go from there. So we do understand that our budgets are going to be submitted about the same time frame as typically. So that would mean that we would want to have our Park and Rec budget specific meeting on Wednesday, January 6th, which is the first Wednesday of January. So I'd like to propose that that's our next meeting, and that would be specific to the budget. And then I'd also like to propose, if everybody's agreeable, that we schedule a regular meeting for January as well. So that way we don't wait for 2 months to be able to talk about any kind of general business. If the need is not there, I would certainly let everybody know that I don't think we have anything to talk about. I think we can wait until February, but I think it might be smart for us to go ahead and schedule those 2 meetings, which would be January 6th and then January 27th, if that's agreeable.
Fine by me.
Fine by me. Is that the same start times, Mary?
Again, the 5:30 start time is fine with me. I'm not the only person here that is affected by the start times of the meeting. So if folks would prefer earlier or later, that is equally agreeable with me.
I like the 5:30 start time.
5:30 is fine.
5:30 most often works for me. I was just a little late today, very late today, but usually 5:30 is fine.
Okay, so we'll plan on the 5:30 for both of those dates in January, and then by that first meeting, we can get a calendar out to everybody for review for the rest of the year. We'll just stick with the kind of the regular skeletal schedule that we've been doing for the past few years, with a meeting every month except for November, and I think July we've been skipping. So we'll send that out, but it feels good to have the January dates on the calendar. Thank you.
Great. Okay, good play.
And I don't have anything else that I need to discuss. I certainly don't want to tell other people if they do or not, but I will mute myself unless anybody asks me any questions.
I'm good for this evening.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Merry
Good night.
Christmas, happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Happy holidays.